Thanks for tuning in to the Spread Your Wingspan podcast.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Jenny.
And we're your hosts, two friends who immediately bonded over our secret smut addictions. So join us as we journey together through our favorite romance and fantasy stories and discuss all things kinks, female pleasure, taboos, and more.
Make sure to check out the show notes for any spoiler alerts and content warnings. We're happy you're here. Let's get to today's pod. Hello.
Hello.
We're back again.
We're back again.
A week flew by fast.
It did.
It did.
Oh my goodness.
Should you maybe tell the title before we do anything else? Because we didn't get into it till like 10 minutes on the last one.
Yes, so today we're talking about the third book in the From Blood and Ash series, Crown of Gilded Bones.
Yes, which this might be my favorite title so far.
It's a very good title.
It's a good title.
Yeah. I don't want to, we're going to go get into things.
I know. I like to get ahead of myself. I won't put that on you. I won't say we. I'll say
no.
me.
I was about to, I wasn't you. It was about to be me, but I stopped myself. Before we get into this book,
yes,
I did want to pick up on a thread from our previous pod for everybody who listened. At the end of our discussion, we were talking about audiobooks.
Yes.
And how you kind of were talking about how audiobook narration had changed in just your lifetime.
Yes, because I had said that the very first audiobook I listened to, I was like 12 or 13, and it was a book on tape, multiple CDs, very different format that I took out from the library.
Yes, and it was more, the person was just reading the book out loud. I'm assuming in a very well done way, but it was very straightforward, like I'm just reading this. Versus now, it's very popular to do accents, to do different voices, to act, to kind of gasp or like have, it's very acting based. And we kind of were like, whoa, fascinating topic. And I had mentioned to you, I'm not sure if it was on or off pod, but I have a friend who works in audiobook recording. Mm-hmm. Her company is called Common Mode Inc. She also does podcast producing, and that's at gem.mp3 on Instagram. You can find her there. Her name is Jess Escalona. She was super helpful. And I just kind of asked her, I was like, hey, is this a thing? And she was like, yes. And I was like, well, can you tell me your thoughts on why or how? And she basically said a big part of it was when people started doing different point of view chapters, and they would cast different people to do the two characters rather than just having the one person read both. And then from there, it kind of transpired that people really liked that. And that also coincided with kind of like Audible being on the rise, audiobook listening being on the rise, podcasting being on the rise. So people are just listening to people talking more in general. And, they're following what people are listening to, and people are kind of preferring these more dramatized accounts. She did say some people still request when they're having their audiobook recorded for it to be straightforward narration, but that on the whole, people don't want that as much anymore. She also had a really interesting comment about they used to do abridged versions of books because they would literally run out of tape.
Oh, that's hilarious, because now I'm remembering you would see unabridged version.
Yes. And so now they have unlimited quote-unquote tape, so they can add in all this extra, the gasps, the sound effects, the accents, taking your time speaking, like, versus before they had to, like, be at a specific clip to get through it.
Is that why I listen at faster speeds now?
Probably.
Because I literally, guys, I will listen to books at, right now, the From Blood and Ash series at 1.5x speed.
Which is crazy.
Oh, wait, that's fine. Sometimes my husband...
Mad respect. But, like, if I hear that, it sounds like...
And my husband Grant will walk in the room and be like, you can understand that? I'm like, this is the speed at which I understand it. Like, if it goes any slower, I can't follow it. I zone out.
Amazing. I mean,
it's just like, I think brains legitimately just process things at different speeds, and
auditory processing.
Thank you. That's really interesting, because I've also noticed, I think I've had my Audible account for 12 years. I was just looking because I have quite the collection at this point. I think it was 2012 I signed up for an Audible account. So that's 13 years. And I didn't listen to books that fast 13 years ago. I just listened to them at normal speed.
Yeah.
And it was when I was working on my degree, I graduated in 2021, that I learned that I could speed up my lectures, video recorded lectures, which that really saved me because, people speak at different speeds. And so I was like, oh, could I do that with my audiobooks? So I started with 1.1, then I went to 1.2, then I went to 1.3. But I don't think it's just that my brain has started moving faster. I wonder if people, legitimately narrators, just take more time.
I believe they do.
In recording.
Yeah.
That is fascinating.
Yeah. So interesting, right?
So interesting.
So thank you so much, Jess. I really appreciate it. She was like out with her family answering this question for me on
thank
Instagram.
You, Jess. Very sweet.
Yeah, and just really cool to know somebody who works in that side of the industry.
Yeah. Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Because I don't remember the answer. Do you like or dislike the dramatized versions of these things?
I love it. I
can't stand them. It's too much for me.
So I love the like graphic audios, honestly, because I love hearing like there's like they put in the sound of the horse trotting and like the wind rustling and like it's like a movie in your mind is what they call it. The only thing I don't like the sex scenes in those because you hear like and it's like people trying to on their own like record kissing or like fucking sounds. It's like it's a little cringe.
Like practicing making out in your arm.
That's exactly what it is. Yes, that must be what they're doing.
Yeah.
Or they're like bringing their partner in. I don't know. I don't think so though, because it sounds very one-sided.
Yeah.
But I think for me, because I am a visual processor, as we've talked about, or like kinetic, like if I can feel something, I can learn it. I have a really hard time learning auditorily. And so for me, I think the acting really helps me pay attention.
So it helps you ground the story because you can create a felt sense of it?
Because it becomes more whole body somehow, even though it's just auditory stuff.
Interesting, because we were talking about how you and I both will see full scenes in our mind when we read them. Like we create that imaginally in our mind, which you do reading it with your eyes, but it's a little more difficult when you're listening.
Yes.
So fascinating.
Yes.
I'm glad that we know about learning styles.
It's so cool, right?
It's so cool. Yeah. It's really just neat how we can all read the same book but experience it in different ways.
Yeah. I also think you also come from a theater background. Am I wrong?
Not from an acting. But
okay. Okay. So I was an actor growing up. My husband likes to like reference. He was not there for this, but he thinks it's very me. That like so I was always reading about like children like Christina Aguilera got discovered at like a Save Mart or whatever. So whenever I was out with my mother. Like, whenever I was out with my mother in the parking lot, I'd be like, the sun will come tomorrow. Like, I would be like, somebody's got to discover me. So, anyways, I grew up with, like, people reading plays together, like, being in them, like, hearing the different voices. So it also, I think, is just something I naturally like more. But I very much can understand how people wouldn't.
Yeah.
You know, because it's definitely, like, it's a very specific thing.
Yeah.
It's like, I just want to hear the book.
Totally.
Don't do voices.
But we have said that we are going to do an episode on this, audio porn apps, which I am a big fan of. And there is a level of dramatization, not just to the sexual, aspects, which do have sound effects. And there's a lot of emoting and moaning. But I'm thinking of one that I listened to on Dipsy where the male protagonist owns a bar. And so when they're starting the scene where like she's walking into the bar, you can hear like the bars like people taking glasses clicking.
Yes.
So that's good, but it's a modern setting. There's no horses clomping their hooves or anything, but it's there is a little element to it, but those sex scenes are very much dramatized in their sounds. And
but they're not cringy, right? Because I'm interested in
they're literally like porn actors.
Oh.
They're not just audiobook narrators trying to do the sexy sounds.
So do you think they're like actually doing
porn? No. So actually, I think I'm maybe misspeaking. Like they most of these actors do just audio porn.
Oh, okay.
So like they're doing this day in and day out.
Okay. So they're like
acting in that fashion.
They're good at it, is what I'm hearing.
They figured it out. And when there's like two people in a scene, they will be, from what I've seen on Instagram and stuff, like sometimes they are in the same room, and so they are recording but playing off of each other. I don't think always, but sometimes. So that's interesting.
Yes.
And I do love, there are stories, and they're not awful stories. They're compelling stories, but we're there for the sex.
Yes.
But it's really cool to hear like a man and a woman or two men and whatever the combination have two actual
4 men, 8 women.
That would be amazing. There have been some threesomes, but I don't think I've gotten anything more than 4. But we'll get into it, but like these apps are starting to create more romantic-y style story backgrounds, which I think is definitely a response to the types of books that we're talking about here.
I have another tangent to go on.
Great.
We're gonna get to this. I was working out with my trainer today. Shout out to David Corey Jr. He's a great trainer. And he has many clients, and he very sweetly like boosts our audiobook or our podcast to, we were just talking about audiobooks.
Yes.
To these clients, because many of them are romantasy readers. Mm-hmm. And he was like, so what's up with this? Like, why are so many of my female clients so obsessed with this genre? And I was like, have we not talked about this before? Because I talk about it all the time. Mm-hmm. I was like, it's fantasy novels. There's an uptick in fantasy novels when there is an uptick in fascism. Mm-hmm. Lord of the Rings was written in response to World War II, right? Like, in response to fascism. Like, there is like a correlation that people have been talking about for eons about that. And then my personal take is women's rights. Women have had some rights that are now being taken away. We didn't have all the rights, but we had more rights. Mm-hmm. And like, those are being threatened right now. And so the romance aspect of fantasy, it's like, let's fight. It's like the fascism element and the like oppression of women element. And then creating this zone, this escape hatch where it's a world where women have the most rights, maybe not within the world of the book, mm-hmm. but in the genre they do. You know what I mean? It's like, it makes complete sense to me why it's popular right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And so ditto with the like audio porn, that being, it's like, that's something people want. Mm-hmm. It makes total sense.
It does make total sense. Yeah.
I'm very interested to see if I cringe when I hear because the graphic audio of A Court of Mist and Fury, I really like the narrator for Feyre, but the way she says Reese in this particular voice when she's like coming, it's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. It's worse
than Turgid Peak.
Worse than Turgid Peak. Worse than nails on a chalkboard. Like I almost want to try it, but it's like she's like, it's like I can't even
like Casper.
It's like a ghost. It's so bad. Again, she narrates really wonderfully. It's literally just that part that drives me crazy.
Well, this is what happens when you fake orgasms, people.
Facts.
Sorry.
I love it. Okay.
I'll be here all week. Okay.
Getting into today's book.
Yes.
Shall I read the summary?
Please.
Jennifer L. Armentrout wastes no time jumping right back into action. After dissenters attempt to kill Poppy at the end of book 2, she unleashes a new level of power and kills them by forcing their hatred back on themselves. However, Alistair is revealed to be a traitor, and he weaponizes the Crown Guard to seize Poppy, wounding Castile and Kieran in the process. Poppy awakens in chains made of bone, which inhibit her powers. Her imprisoners reveal that they believe her to be the subject of a prophecy, which basically promises destruction to their realm at her hands, and for this reason they seek to kill her before she can take her rightful place as Queen of Atlantia. As part of their plans, they offer to trade her over to the Ascended under the assumption that they will end up killing her as she fights back. But right as this plan is about to unfold, Castile, Kieran, and co. show up to rescue Poppy. During the chaos of the fight, Poppy is fatally wounded with an arrow to the chest. Castile decides to ascend Poppy with the support of Kieran, despite the treason that will entail. Unfortunately for everyone, Poppy awakens and is not, fortunately for everyone, Poppy awakens and is not in fact an Ascended, even though she tries to eat Kieran and has to drink a fair amount of Castile's blood to slake her extreme thirst. Confused but relieved, the trio heads to meet with the King and Queen. After proving herself to her new in-laws, Poppy must reckon with the choice to assume the crown and become the Queen of Atlantia. After receiving a message from the Blood Crown delivered by her Ascended brother Ian, Poppy decides to take her place on the throne so that she can work to save the people she loves. Poppy and Castile are crowned the new King and Queen, to the cheers and joy of the people of Atlantia. Going on a vague hint from Ian, Poppy, Castile, and co. head to Elysium to wake Nyktos in the hopes that he will help them against the Blood Crown. Nyktos confirms Poppy is of his blood, says a bunch of vague shit, and basically says he can't help. Soon our heroes travel to meet with Queen Ileana, who, psych, is actually Isbeth Malik? Okay, interesting. It goes against...
Oh, no, I'm sorry, Malek.
Malek. Okay, we're going to talk about that. Yeah, sorry. Ileana, who's psych, is actually Isbeth Malik's heartmate. Oh, and she's Poppy's mother. And she's not an Ascended at all. She's a god of sorts. And she's extremely unhinged. Their meeting proves how out of their depth the Atlanteans truly are, as Poppy is completely overtaken by her. The Wolven Lyra is killed, Ian is murdered, Tawny is injured, and Castile is taken prisoner. Poppy travels once again to Elysium, having realized she's not a deity at all. She's a straight-up god, the granddaughter of Nyktos, and capable of summoning the Draken to help her as she seeks to free Castile and destroy the Blood Crown once and for all.
This book
So much happens.
I was exhausted by the end of this motherfucking book.
Yeah.
I was like, I almost went over into anger where I was like, I have more of these to read, which I'm excited to read them, but it was, I think because I'm binging them and they're really good, but also I was like, I almost forgot everything until I just read your summary because I completely had forgotten by the end that she wakes up in like the bone chains.
Yeah.
Which starts the book so strong.
This book, okay, so Jennie started this book and she was like, Sara, a lot is happening. And I was like, basically, once we get to the end of book 2, Jennifer L. Armentrout is like, oh, the gas pedal. Like, but there is also a huge kind of difference between the beginning of this book is full throttle, the end of this book is full throttle, and the middle is a lot of explication, a lot of politics.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, in rereading, this is the most boring to me of all of them. It's my least favorite to reread. I think once you get it once, maybe twice, you're like, I'm good.
Yeah.
But so much happens, I wanted to reread it to make sure I got everything.
So much happens, yes.
So, and I was just thinking,
Mhm.
because I was like, yeah, the third one, she needs to do a lot of ground laying, a lot of explanation, like a lot happens. And I was like, we were kind of shitting on her. I was kind of shitting on Onyx Storm for that reason.
Mhm.
And I was like, it shouldn't be a valley, it should be a peak. And I was like, fucking eating my words over here. Book 3 is kind of the valley of this series.
Yeah, I mean, without, I've only read the 3, you've read all of them. So, yeah, but I do think Onyx Storm was far more of a valley than this one. But in terms of story arc and likely where we're headed, sure.
Yeah, I think you're going to enjoy book 4 a whole lot more.
You've been telling me for many reasons I'm going to love book 4.
Yes.
So I'm excited. Also, guys, originally we were going to try to do one episode on, like, combined 2 and 3. And this before we had even recorded 2, and I got 3 chapters into 3. I'm like, that's fucking impossible. Yeah. I'm 3 chapters in, and we already need another conversation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's packed in. Where would you like to start? Themes?
Just like to tell everybody, I was doing this at 10 o'clock last night, so I feel like these aren't my best themes, but so I feel like
great themes.
Thank you. Be the change you want to see in the world, I think is like Poppy's theme for this book. Power means not being entirely good.
Which I am assuming we're going to get a lot more of this as we go.
Yes.
Because Poppy has a pretty big reckoning in this book of like wanting to do the right thing, wanting to do the right thing for her, for herself, for her and Castile together, for Atlantia. But she's learning how big of a job that is. And the former king and queen, Castile's parents, really, I mean, his mother especially, is like, girlfriend, you got to you're the queen now. You got to think about the kingdom as a whole. And given her inexperience, given the big crown really thrust upon her, like she kind of knew she was going to be a princess, but now to be the queen of Atlantia, it's a lot to contend with. Does she go to war? Does she not? Is, I think, the biggest one.
And you're just talking about political power there.
Yeah.
That's not even bringing in the layer of her actual powers,
Fair.
Which the more she uncovers that she can do, the more she is inclined to do quote unquote not good things. Mm-hmm. And I think that's very interesting. That's something that is explored in the prequel series at greater length because we're with the gods in that series. I think it's something that, kind of jumping to later in the outline, but I think that we are used to seeing this in our male main characters, mm-hmm. and not as much in our female main characters, with honestly the exception of Aelin, mm-hmm. and then Poppy, where it's like you're morally gray.
Yeah.
And the more power that unfolds, the more morally gray she becomes.
Yeah.
And she kind of like has awareness of that. At times she really fights back against that, and at times she really leans into it. So I just like really love that development. It would have been so easy to keep her as this savior figure, mm-hmm. this purely good person. It's not exactly what happens. And I think because there's a point being made about the quality of power in general.
Mm-hmm. And I think that the best example of this is when Ian is killed very suddenly, very unexpectedly, very brutally in front of her. When we realized Queen Ileana, Isbeth, is fucking nuts. Yeah. She's insane.
She's like, look what you made me
I
do.
know, which makes me think of Mommy Dearest.
Like, yes.
But just unhinged. Like, you made me do this. And, which obviously isn't true. But I think that was really the turning point where Poppy began to accept, oh, wait, I have this immense power. I can use it. I can fuck you all up. And just, who cares about the consequences? there are those moments. And when she confronts Castiel's mother about keeping the crucial information about Isbeth's identity from her, she's like, you knew. We needed that information, and my brother is dead. And like,
it's on you.
Barely holding it together right now.
Yeah.
And I just need you to know, like, I am now the one in charge. Like, I think it was in that moment when she was like, nope, bitch, I'm the queen.
No more fucks given.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she goes off on Lord Gregory, that little fuckface who doesn't.
You mean
Your
Majesty?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, that was the first real time. She was reckoning with it in different parts up until that, but until she sees her brother killed. But she even says, like, I could go crazy like Isbeth. I could very easily. That's a choice. But I'm not going to, because I'm going to be better than that. But
well, because a really great part of the writing here is you really understand why Isbeth did go crazy.
Yeah.
But you also are like, and you went too like, and what you've done is inexcusable. But when you hear what Castiel's mother did, it's so fucked up.
Yeah. And her thin excuses.
Oh, yeah, she sucks. Honestly, that's not.
Love. I was jilted. Like,
yeah, and it's like, you're how many years old? It's like the Asriel problem I have. I'm like, how many hundreds of years old are you? And you still are acting like a 12-year-old?
Yeah.
Go to therapy.
Go to therapy.
Atlantia definitely has therapy. Just like, what is it in the Night Court? What's the city?
I can't think of it now.
The Night Court.
Yeah, the Night Court city. Okay. You think I can recall the fucking Night Court city right now with all these names and places?
That's like my brain is like, no. Okay, themes.
Yes.
Love heals, love wounds, and leads to destruction.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think this is because, especially when you're exploring immortality in a text, that has to come up. Mm-hmm. That's my biggest problem with Twilight. It's like, what's going to happen after these Mormons fuck? Like, for the rest of their lives, there's never going to be conflict. They're never going to sour on humanity. Mm-hmm. Like, they're going to, like, things happen. Mm-hmm. There's a flip side to everything. I think that's really well explored in this book. Going back to ancient Greece, if you try to avoid a prophecy, you'll make it come true. Mm-hmm. That comes up even more in book 4. And then mommy issues. Yeah. There's lots of those.
Maybe I should have seen this coming, but didn't we, like, weren't we told in book 2 that Isbeth, the queen, Ileana, was her grandmother, Poppy's grandmother?
Yeah, Duchess Tierman said that for some reason. That's never really explained. That's one thing that bothers me. It's like, Isbeth is just like, yeah, that stupid bitch. And you're like, I can't decide if JLA, that was an editing change. Like, she was like, actually, I want this to go in a different direction. But once you get to the end of what's been written so far, like,
it's pretty loose.
Would also seem, once you get to the end of book 4, mm-hmm. things are explained that had been coming up in earlier books. So it does seem like it was pre-plotted, so it's kind of hard to say.
Okay. Yeah, it's a little awkward because, and again, there's so much that happens. Maybe my brain just decided to exit this bit of information, but am I remembering that when the first time after Poppy leaves with Hawk Castile, that then people come after her, like the Duchess then tries to say, like, oh no, come back. Mm-hmm. The queen is actually your grandmother. Mm-hmm. That's when it comes up, right?
She can explain everything.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Cool.
Yeah. She'll be so happy that you're the princess of Atlantia now. And Poppy's
these were her plans all along. Oh, which I loved that part of the story, that Castile's brother is in cahoots with the queen, and the queen had always intended for Poppy to marry Castile's brother because of the power of their union. I'm forgetting now exactly.
Malik, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so this also was confusing.
This is explained in greater detail.
No, the names.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yes. So the names. The pronunciation guide does not match up to the audiobook narration, because I was listening a little in my attempt to finish. I don't know if they were not given the pronunciation guide.
Which is bullshit.
But the pronunciation guide it's very different.
Okay, so what's the pronunciation guide between Castile's brother and
Malik?
So it's Malik Malek in...
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Scotus,
because I actually kept
Scotus, not Scotos. Like, it's Delano, not Delano. Yeah, I think it's Nail, not Nail.
Nail is how they say it.
Yeah, it was a bunch that I was like, oh yeah, they're not getting these right.
And I just think she could have chosen names that were a little bit different from each other for Castile's brother, and
that is mentioned. I don't know if it's in this book. I think it is in this book where someone's like, Poppy says to Castile, do you think your mother obviously was still in love with Malik or Malek? because she named her son something so similar, and Castiel's like, oh, probably.
Oh, totally missed that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's supposed to be like evidence of like she never moved on.
Yeah,
like,
which she admits, like, I love my current husband, but like I don't know if I've ever stopped loving Malek, whatever it is. Okay, that makes a little more sense, because I mean that shit was confusing for a while listening to it. And again, pitfalls of listening and not having the names written out in front of you. You know,
I mean, again, like the spelling is so weird that if you had the names written out in front of you, you'd be like, I still don't.
Come on.
Okay. So, Jenny, your reaction. We've heard a little bit about it so far.
Yeah.
A lot was going on. Overwhelmed.
Yeah, just a lot. I mean, I got through it, but by the end I was exhausted, which, but you made a good point that like books 3 and 4, we really do kind of need to read together, because I guess a lot happens in book 4. So excited to keep reading. I thought that her twists and reveals, while like the one about Castiel's brother being with the queen, fantastic.
So good.
I don't know if I love how she handled the writing of the queen being Poppy's mother, because I just felt like, kind of how I felt like how Xaden's mother storyline was rushed in Onyx Storm. I feel like this mother storyline was kind of rushed in this book as well.
Definitely feel that. She's a lot more present in book 4.
Okay.
There's just like who Poppy is, the prophecy, and Isbeth, and then Malek and the Handmaiden are in book 4.
Okay.
So
it's more set up in this book than like full story fleshing.
Correct.
Okay.
Again, not everything is answered. Also, I think there's going to be even more answers in the final book coming out.
Okay.
So there's information in the prequel series that will also, once we get through that, make everything in retrospect even more crystal clear.
Okay, cool. Yeah, cool. So yeah, it just felt like a couple of things were a little bit more muddy here, but also that might just be the byproduct of so much happening.
It also also could be, I think, 1.5 speed audiobook. Mm-hmm. Like that's coming at you like a bullet train, rather than if you're reading, you can like read one sentence, process it.
Yeah, that's not
read the next sentence, process it. That's not how you read.
No, I'm.
Yeah. Like that's okay. I think when you're even just like when I was listening on audiobook, it's like, oh yeah, this stuff is like just kind of going.
Yeah.
At the speed that the person is reading it.
Fair.
Yeah. But I do hear you on that.
Because there's a lot.
It is such a twist.
3 books.
Totally.
In terms of what she chucks in here. I'm just looking back. I love, the humor between Castiel and Poppy and Kieran still stays. So like, I'm excited to see how that keeps going.
How about the moment where,
No, go ahead.
Where they're about to be crowned, or no, they're about to go in to say, hey, we'll take the throne. And Castiel touches Poppy's cheek and he's like, you faced like germs and like GYRMS and, the Ascended and the Craven, and like, you're just so brave and amazing. You could do this. And then Kieran touches her other cheek. He's like, you have nothing to be afraid of. Did you love that moment?
I love all of the moments between the 3 of them. Oh, this is the one with the beach scene, right?
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
Let's get into it.
The beach scene. I was listening whenever this week I got to this part. I think I was running errands, and so I had my AirPods in, and I'm just listening, driving, walking to places. I get to Whole Foods, and our Whole Foods in the neighborhood has an underground garage, and so I pulled into the garage. I'm listening, and then all of a sudden I realized I'm listening to basically voyeuristic orgy type scene, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm about to walk into a grocery store. Maybe I should pause this. And so I text Sarah and I'm like, yeah, almost just fully walked into the grocery store, just like totally enamored with Poppy watching Kieran and Lyra.
Yeah.
But anyway, but it was her.
Yes.
Yeah. On the beach where she's performing fellatio on him. And Poppy at that point had not done that to Castiel.
Or seen or heard. She'd read about it, but she didn't fully understand the mechanics until she saw it in action.
And they're full on just like watching Kieran and his partner on the beach.
While Castiel is fingering her.
Yes. So that was just a beautiful scene to read.
Wait until you learn some information from a different point of view in book 4.
Oh, okay. Fantastic.
That scene is revisited.
Oh, yay. That's very exciting.
Different point of view.
Very exciting. So that whole scene, beautifully written. So much fun. So much fun. Like it made me blush. It made me laugh. and then be embarrassed to walk into Whole Foods.
Also, wait, what you texted me was, I don't think I can walk into Whole Foods listening to an orgy. And I wrote back, the beach scene.
I'm like, yeah. Lots of confidence. Also, I think we need to mention that Miss Willa is alive and well.
Miss Willa Collins.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, she's alive and well. She's the eldest of the elders on the Council of Elders.
She's like 2,000 years old.
Yeah, she's a changeling. She's a seer.
Mm-hmm.
She was the one in the Red Pearl who told Poppy to go upstairs to Castile.
Oh, yeah, that was a fun call.
Yeah, she's been part of the story all along.
And like Castile loving to embarrass Poppy and saying like your favorite book, and then she literally meets Willa, and then Castile embarrasses her, and she's like, stop.
And she's like, oh wait, Castile will say anything in front of his parents. I'm the one that he has no filter.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I thought it was really sweet how Willa pulled her aside to give her some political advice, and then said like, I'm here for any question. Like if you have any further questions, she said, about this or anything else you might want to ask. And I was like, oh my gosh, this character is going to be a lot of fun.
She's fun.
Yeah.
She's fun.
So that was great. I think though it's fast paced, a lot of lore to keep track of, a lot of people, a lot of places. You have gods, you have Atlanteans, you have Ascended, you have mortals, you have all Wolven, you have all of these different things. But also to be able to keep the humor, keep the fun, keep it steamy.
Yes.
Keep it. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Just, it's like a full package.
Agreed.
It's got everything.
Yeah. And what I love about like the cast of characters gets expanded in this book, and stays expanded. But even though there's like a lot of them, they are, I think, well fleshed out.
Yeah.
Like Vanetta,
I love
Emil,
Vanetta. Yeah.
Delano or Delano. I'm just gonna say how I say
That's
it.
That's right.
Yeah, it just like they are. Tawny becomes more of a character again. You can keep track of all of them. Like it's like kind of like that found family that we love so much in fantasy.
Yes.
When I was listening to the audiobook, the narrator basically did all the Atlanteans with the same voice. Like I did hear the British, but like Kieran and Castile's voice is very similar. Vanetta and Kieran's voice is very similar. She was doing that like British accent, but like I was like, oh, I wonder how Jenny's keeping track of all the various characters. You found it very easy?
Yeah, I don't necessarily need accents to keep track of characters. I just think it's really fun.
Yes.
Which is, for our book club right now, we're reading Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. And this is an example of an audiobook narrator that does not do voices. It's just a straight narration. And my brain had it when I first started listening, I did have to kind of switch that because I was like, oh, I do have to track this a little differently.
Yeah. Plus, I don't think you know who's speaking this, because even paragraphs, from paragraph to paragraph, the character point of view changes.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you figure out in the middle of the paragraph.
Yeah.
So like you get there eventually. Yeah, so it's interesting talking about the way audiobook narration has changed, and even now finishing this one that does have some variation, but not every single character has a different intonation or voice.
So difficult to do. I mean, the woman who does the audiobook for Throne of Glass does a really good job at
and
that.
And like the Outlander narrator too.
As you said. Yeah. So it's definitely possible, but like when there's so many characters, that's a lot to ask of a voice
But
actor.
now I'm curious what the instructions were from, like, to the narrator.
Me
just
too.
Hearing what your friend said about what authors request.
Yeah, totally. Me too.
Yeah. So it might not even be the narrator's choice, is what I'm saying.
No, yeah, no, totally. Yeah, it's really interesting. And then you said this was the same narrator who does, I can't think of her name, oldest, meanest sister in Court of Nesta. Is it that same actor?
Well, I remember saying that there was one that was the actor, but now I can't remember if it's this one or not.
Because I think it was you're saying it was Poppy's voice, and I was like, because I was saying I imagine Poppy's voice to be much like girlier sounding.
Is that this serious?
I think
or is that
it
a different
is.
one? I'm just not remembering.
Well, we need to revisit our own podcast.
Yes. Sure, we talk about so much.
I know. No, I know. Any more on your reaction?
No. Very excited to see what she does with the Draken. That's for sure. Or
They
continues
are
to do
a
with
lot
the
more
Draken.
present in the fourth book and in the prequel series.
Cool.
Okay. My reaction is, I realized I hadn't said this yet in talking about this series. I love how Poppy and Nyctos' powers of being able to perceive emotions from others. I love how that is written. The way that a splash of surprise, cold water, or a lemony taste of blah, 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 or like vanilla is sincerity, cinnamon is pride, like chocolate and strawberries is love. Like, it's very specific, I think, to the author's experience, but I'm like, yeah, totally. Like I can see it, I can feel it, I can taste it. It really puts you in that mindset of that being your power.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I've ever really seen that before. Like I just think it's a really like inventive and very creative and cool. And it's a really good addition to the fantasy genre of power sets,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And again, I'm really interested in the way that emotion and empathy are violent powers in this world. The way that Poppy kills people by funneling their hatred back at them. That's cool.
That's badass.
It's badass and
Yeah.
it's new.
It might be my new want for a superpower.
Yes.
You know, my evil side coming out, but like,
Yes.
to be able to give people a taste of their own medicine.
Yes. I mean, this is my next point. The
Yeah.
world today,
Mm-hmm.
if there's so much hatred, and if we could weaponize that and like just like shove it back down their throats, and that would like be their demise,
Mm-hmm.
everything would be fixed. I think.
Guys, don't piss off Sarah. No, but I think it's an interesting thought experiment, right? You know, she at the end of book 2, when that happened, where she kills the people because she turns their hatred back on them, she wrestles with the moral implications of what she's done, because in that moment she claims that she doesn't do it on purpose, that she's just overwhelmed, overcome. It was an instinct. This is the first real glimpses of like, wow, she has a lot more power than we thought she had. You know, it's not just reading a room. She can actually direct the emotions. So yeah, I don't know. In my mind, I'm like, would I ever take it that far and actually like kill the hateful people? It feels really good to think that right now, because I think for me in particular, like personally, this week was really rough in terms of the news, and like me just feeling like the futility of my moral compass and, you know, what are we actually doing? Denial, like everything really for me personally came to a head this week. So if you had asked me on Wednesday if I thought this power was good, I'd be like, yes, let's fucking turn it on every hateful person who exists on this planet right now. And then we'll just wipe them out and we'll start from scratch. I don't know if that would actually work, but it feels good to think that way. And to your point about fantasy being a reaction to fascism, giving us this fantastical sense of a power, just the inkling of a possibility that there is a world where these powers could be used to fight fascism, feels good. Yes. It's an outlet. It makes me feel like I might, even in my mind, have some control over something.
It's hope, weirdly. And it's a very feminine coded power, even though this power comes from Nyktos, so which is like sort of a spoiler, but not really for you.
Yeah, no.
And he's a man.
Mm-hmm.
Empathy, emotions, like kin keeping, all that again, like is very matriarchally coded in our society. Mm-hmm. And the fact that that is the power, that is the key with this like hatred funneling, you know, is pretty dope.
Yeah.
And the fact that it is like, oh, actually, that's a terrifying power. Mm-hmm. That's such a violent power. Yeah, is that, would I actually want to have that power? Because then I'd have to constantly be making these choices and wrestling with my morals in that way. And what you're saying is that's what Poppy struggles with.
Yeah.
Like Poppy, I think I said earlier in an earlier podcast on the series, Poppy makes mistakes. Poppy makes bad choices. Sometimes they're not even, again, they're instincts and not choices, but Poppy abuses this power several times. And again, that's very interesting to me. It's not just like perfectly wielded as a deus ex machina when it needs to be to like for plot advancement or whatever. It's like, no, she goes on murderous rampages sometimes.
It's messy.
And there's always people who die who are not at fault. Mm-hmm. Like it's not, you can't just direct it to the bad guys kind of thing.
Collateral damage.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm just in this moment really appreciating the power of fantasy, like the power of being able to have these conversations and like talking without getting too deep into our political climate on March 8th, 2025. But I think when I started reading fantasy books as a kid, I would not have been intellectually developed enough to be like, the world sucks, fight the power. But I knew that there was something about these books that made me feel good. I knew that there was something about these books that made me feel like it was an escape from real life. So, you know, I think likening it to our conversation way back when we first started the podcast about how sexual fantasies in women, it's reading these books is a good way to work out, you know, things that might be taboo or might not be accepted, you know, to do it in reading form or imaginal form versus literally going out and asking for somebody to sexually assault you. Like I was having a conversation last night about a gentleman, my friend group was like, I didn't realize a lot of women like fantasize, like rape fantasy is actually a thing that women think about. And I'm like, yeah, it is. There's a reason. There are reasons why. There are reasons why as women, they consider these things, I don't need to get too deep into it, but there are certain taboos that we can't do in real life.
Nor would we want to.
Nor would we want to.
Yes. It exists as a thought experiment, and its appeal is as a thought experiment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because we can work something out internally that maybe gives us a power of control that maybe we've lost or don't feel.
Absolutely.
Talking about these turning hatred back on other people. Yeah, that sounds fucking satisfying right now. Let's do it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we going to go out and start, doing that? No. Even if we had the power, I don't think you and I would.
Go full Luigi.
Full Luigi. Yeah. Oh, goodness. The world.
Another element of, again, I think it's very clear the Ascended are a fascist society. Mm-hmm. It's very clear.
Yes.
And it's the way that Jennifer L. Armentrout kind of breaks down how that occurred which is Poppy kind of realizing this, through Poppy's realizations of distracting them with the Craven, which is a problem that they created, but that, fully keeps the public from ever realizing who's really, pulling the puppet strings. Because they're constantly just trying to stay alive from these freaking zombies.
Survival.
Religious oligarchy, essentially. America. Where the people who are in charge are also upholding this religious order, and the religious order is dictating everything about the regular citizens' lives.
Yep.
And imprisoning them basically as such. An uneven distribution of resources. A great divide between the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah, the 1% and everyone else.
And then a very unhinged psychopath at the helm.
Is she a weird color?
She's very red. She's very red.
So like the orange one.
Yes, I almost wrote that in my notes. I was like, a red tinged psychopath.
I'm sensing a theme.
Yeah, with very emotional, but also truly psychopathic in that no real concern for the feelings of others. Just rampaging.
Her reasoning is her own, which has no grounding in any moral compass other than the narcissistic, the one that she has created based on her experience.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Which, I do like that we get the backstory of that. She's not just crazy. There are many, many steps that led her to be this way. And, I wasn't expecting to get as much of her humanity, but when she talked about falling in love with Malek, whatever his name is, she was like, no, I was deeply in love with him.
They were heartmates.
Like
Poppy and Castile. And Poppy's thinking, she's like, Castile also ascended me when I died or was dying. So can we really blame Malik and Nisbet for what happened there? Literally the same thing happened to me, just with a different outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is nice to finally get the humanity of the queen, or her backstory, or something that gives us some empathy for the character. I'm fine if we have completely morally bankrupt characters. I'm totally cool with that. But I do prefer to get the underbelly of why people are evil. Why, I'm thinking of superhero stories.
Yeah, like an origin story.
Yeah. The villains usually have a pretty compelling, story, a believable story for why they became the villains.
Yes. Yeah. And, the Atlanteans are not this counterbalance to the evil queen where they're good. Really learning that everything is Elona. How do they say in the audiobook?
Iloana?
It's spelled Eloana.
Iloana? I'm losing track now.
Castile's mother.
Yeah.
Queen of Atlantia, former queen.
Iloana?
Okay.
Yeah.
That everything is her fault.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of has maintained being her fault. Things have continued to go wrong, and she at various points could have course corrected and did not because of her own cowardice and shame.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good guys versus bad guys. It's both sides of the aisle, really, and they're both kingdoms have done really horrible things. Mm-hmm. Yes, Atlantia is our quote-unquote our hero kingdom. They treat their citizens better. It's way better to be immortal there. They don't have this class divide. They don't have religious oligarchy, et cetera, et cetera. But the people in power still have made these choices that impacted everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that. It's not the most complex thing ever. Again, these series are not they're very blockbustery.
Yes. I mean, there's only so many ways to work out stories like this.
Exactly. But I like it when there's a little bit of like shading to it, you know?
And it kind of goes with the, like I said in the last episode, it's not always bait and switch. That's not the exact thing. But she really does keep information from us in a way that you kind of feel like everybody's hiding something, which might just be her writing style. The way that the story is unfolding, there's a lot of secrets. There's a lot of secrets. And I'm actually thinking even in like the ACOTAR series, there's secrets. There's big reveals and it's really fun. Iron Flame, same thing. But I feel like this whole series is built on secrets.
Yeah, and it's like just like rugs keep getting pulled out from underneath Poppy's feet.
Pull one string and another string.
It's also because we're in Poppy's POV.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm so excited for you to read Flesh and Fire. Because again, it just like so much more makes sense in terms of the secret keeping.
Yeah.
Yeah, because from Blood and Ash, you're constantly in Poppy's point of view, and she's constantly like, "Who am I? What am I? Like, am I immortal, half Atlantean, empath warrior, deity, god, primal god? Like, which she is. That's but like she goes through that journey.
Yeah.
Who are my parents? How was I made? What are my memories? Like the prophecy, all of this. Like she's like WTF."
Guys.
And then in the prequel series, that's not really as much the case.
Yeah.
So you are still learning things, and the main character whose point of view you're in is doesn't know everything from the beginning, but it's not quite the same. Like rug getting pulled out quality.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's well done.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. It's her writing style. It's her narrative style. It's how she's letting the story unfold.
Yeah.
Which is satisfying.
Yeah.
I think I don't remember at what point of the book I got to, but I could tell that we had gotten to the apex and we were about to come, like the roller coaster was about to come down the other side. Because now this is the third book in the series that I've read. And it's just, it's a similar build and crash. And it's like, surprise, 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 surprise.
Big surprise at the end.
Oh my God, I can't wait for the next book.
Cliffhanger.
Yes.
Yes. This one isn't so much a cliffhanger as it is like, oh my God, I have to read the next book. Is Castiel okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Better be.
I did sort of talk about this already, but in Morley Gray, female main character, not just the main male character, shadow daddies.
Do we get shadow mommies now?
Basically.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Shadow mommy.
She kind of is. Her powers. Yeah, you'll see that in more book 4.
Yeah.
I'm like, hell yeah. It doesn't always need to be the like sexy swaggering male lead who is Morley Gray. That can be interesting to us. Yes. Okay. The trajectory of this series moving away from being vampire fiction, I feel like is very present in this book.
Yeah. Although the way that we came into this being vampire fiction was also not traditional.
Correct.
Because you don't really know until the end of the first book that there's even anything akin to a vampire, even though they're not entirely.
There's hints. They don't go out in the sun. Like
retroactively, there are many little hints dropped, but I feel like we only really get one full book of vampire fiction, which is
that's
book
the
2.
second one. Yes. Yeah. Which is, I wonder why it's one of my favorites.
But we like to talk about how like high fae and vampires share a lot of similarities, and I definitely feel like the Atlanteans are more like high fae with vampire qualities. The Ascended are vampire, more vampires, especially after that whole scene where the Ascended like bit Poppy unwillingly in the carriage and it like burned and it hurt and it was awful. So is that like a little like looking ahead that it's a little less vampire-y than maybe we would have believed from these books? Okay.
So there is still more blood play coming up. Like, it's a thing. That's more present in book 4 than book 3 in certain senses. But, and there's fangs and there's biting, etc. But
I hope we get a joining. We better get a joining.
Not gonna say.
Not gonna say.
Make faces.
Oh my God, it was so cute when I edited our last one when you're like, I'm looking away. I'm not looking at you when I say this.
My face is very revealing.
All right, it's fair. Okay, I won't look at your face. So I'm excited for the possibility of a joining.
So there's blood stuff that happens. But as we get more into, again, the god aspect of everything, it becomes much more a series about mythology to me than vampires.
Okay.
Yeah, which I think is like this book really starts to show you that.
Mythology in the sense of like god lore
Yes.
versus just straight up myth.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Spice rating.
Not as spicy as the last one, which is
Correct.
fine. And what did I give it?
I mean, the beach scene really pops it up a notch.
Yeah, it does, but it's also still pretty tame. Like they're just
It is.
witnessing
Yes.
a blowjob.
Yes.
You know.
But and orgies happening around.
Well, yeah, fair. But
like there's
really
there's double penetration happening.
That's right. There is.
And Castiel's like, do you understand how it works now? And Poppy's like, I guess so.
Oh, and then she really wants to know if he did that with Shay, and he's like, no, I did not.
He's like, but I've done it before. and then at some point he's like asking her a question. She's like, I'm intrigued about it. And he goes, I wasn't talking about double penetration, but now I'm excited.
As any hot-blooded man probably would be.
Yes.
Yeah, so, I don't know. Would I call this equal spice to the last one? Probably because of the beach scene. Because it may be spicy.
It's like a 2, maybe?
Yeah, maybe a 2. 2
Yeah.
spicy pepper. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Overall rating.
Rating. So I would give this a solid 8.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. For me, I think this one maybe is like a 6 or a 7.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was good. I don't think I've had a book, especially 3 books in, be as chock full and still be compelling and still make me be like, oh gosh, wow, yeah, I want to keep reading. Like,
Yay.
it was good. As much as I'm like, oh my God, it's so much information. It is. And also, it's done really, really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay,
Respect.
that makes me so happy because I was a little worried with this one. Like, in anticipating your reaction, I was like, yeah, I don't know if Jenny's going to be as interested in this one. Again, I am anticipating you liking book 4 a lot.
Fair.
Not just the reasons I've teased, but for just like in general. Although there's also a lot packed into there too, so we'll see.
I'm just thinking about when you have a favorite band that has had multiple albums and you have like favorite albums in their catalog and like the reasons why you like this one better than this one. I've never thought about this before, but it's the same in a series. Like you're going to like some of the books in the series, even though you might love the series as a whole and think it's one of your favorite. You're still going to have favorites. You're going to still have favorite storylines. You're still going to be like, I don't know, the best.
Like the part where they're talking about casseroles in this book? We're talking about...
casserole. What does that mean? It's a casserole with vegetables?
Green bean casseroles exist in this mythological fantasy world?
That scene was really funny.
Drives me nuts.
Oh, I thought it was cute.
No, but I just, the modern... It just feels anachronistic to me.
I think it's fun.
It literally is just me being, this is one part about this series. It's the like, are you being for real? Green bean casserole.
Touche.
Old people smell like peppermint candies. Like, yeah, and I'm like, what?
I think it's fun. Because I think it was introduced early on. It's not like it was just like thrown in later.
It's part of it.
It is, yeah.
And I can accept that I didn't make the rules of this world. The author did. I accept it. But it takes me out a little bit.
I think it makes the characters more compelling.
It is a very cute. The casserole is used to demonstrate the like found family dynamics in that scene, which is very well done.
Yes, because Poppy thinks casserole is a euphemism for something, and they're legit talking about casseroles.
No, but Castiel
and so she thinks it's a coded sex act, and everybody's like, "No, it's like food that we're gonna go eat at this shop, this tavern down the road."
He's like, "But I think you'd enjoy a meat casserole." Oink oink. Castiel's a little turd.
That part was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just loves fucking with her. It's so fun.
Mm-hmm. Some of the phrasing is getting uber repetitive.
That was a random question. No, like that was an extremely random question. Like nobody's surprised you have a question, Poppy. Basically,
yeah. And you know, you're so twisted. She keeps saying to Castiel every time. He's
you're
like,
demented.
I love you so bad.
Yeah.
Like, God, really not. We don't need to bring this up every single fucking time they interact, guys.
Fully agree.
Yeah. So that did get a little tedious in this book. And but again, like you said, I'm listening to it at 1.5x speed. It's bam, 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 bam.
And I'm rereading. Mm-hmm. So like again, I've heard all this times 4, right?
Yeah.
So on reread and I think on listen, you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. Versus again, initial read, you might not have that experience as much. Yeah. And I don't think any of this is so annoying that you should not pick up this series.
Agreed. Yeah. We're nitpicking, but it's noticeable.
It is.
It's noticeable.
It's not perfect. There's small areas where there could be improvement.
But again, we are not the authors.
Correct.
Not of this book.
Correct.
Yes.
Not of this book yet.
Well, I know you're a writer.
If I ever finish mine.
Right, you will.
Hopefully.
Hmm.
Hopefully.
Cool.
Okay, so we're going to be back next week, or next time you hear us.
Yes.
For book 4.
Book 4, yes. And then, so let's talk about it now. Do we then want to go to because there's 4 books in the prequel series. Do we want to dip into the prequel series after book 4? No, we do want to read book 5 and then.
I believe so. So online, people have reading orders where they interweave the series. I didn't read it that way because I read it as published, and the prequel series was published
After book 5.
After, I don't actually know. It might have been about. There was some, I think, simultaneous stuff happening. But towards the end of this series, and I loved the experience of, again, it gives me goosebumps. Like my experience of like all these questions I had from Blood and Ash, and then reading the prequel series, and like having certain realizations early on in the prequel series that then are kind of basically, not totally, but basically confirmed at the end of it. We're going to get full answers when the last book is published in the summer.
June 10th.
We get full answers on June 10th, where I was like, it reminded me of when I saw Arrival in theater, and my friend and I at the exact same time, when she says, who's this baby? Who's this kid? And we're like, and it's so satisfying. Yeah. I love that feeling.
I love good storytelling.
And so that's why I want us to read it, because I want you to have the same experience.
Yeah, okay, fair. So I think, guys, this might be a big goal, but today is March 8th when we're recording this. Not sure when it's going to be up for you all to listen, but today, in real time, March 8th. Now, is book 6 of Blood and Ash going to be the last book of the series?
Believe so.
Okay, so that comes out on June 10th. So that means we have 6 books to potentially read in 2 months. If we want to set a goal to have them read and discussed before we read book 6. I'm not saying we have to. Yeah. But we could.
We could. I mean, we also have been discussing about interspersing Quicksilver.
Yes.
And the door porn.
Oh, yes, guys. We've wanted to read the doorknob porn for over a year now, and we have to do it.
We need a little palate cleanser.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe not. But that's where we're headed. That's where we're headed. There. It might not be like right on publication day, but we're headed there. This summer. We'll do it.
Coming to you this summer.
Coming to theaters near you.
Exactly. To a computer or phone near you.
Cool. All right. Well, we're just going to keep on reading the series. Sarah might be very sad by the time we finish. Because she's been pitching it for so long.
But then we'll move on to another series.
We will. We shall.
Yes. Okay. Yay.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Spread Your Wingspan podcast.
We would love to hear what you think about our topics today. Be sure to connect with us on Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
You can find us on both with the handle @SpreadYourWingspan, and all the links and more fun stuff are found on our website, spreadyourwingspan.com.
And if you have a book or author you want us to check out, send us an email at hello@spreadyourwingspan.com to tell us.
We hope you tune into the next episode.